So what if I told you that the secret to becoming a great improviser, the secret of improv, isn't to rack up 10,000 hours of practice? What if the real secret is to rack up 10,000 failures? That might sound terrifying, because that moment in a scene when you fail, when your mind goes blank, when you forget a name, when you block an offer, it feels awful. And we want to avoid that sort of thing at all cost. So today we're going to try to reframe how you think about failure in improv. And I'm not going to tell you to just do some positive thinking at any point in this video. We are going to treat failure as a solvable technical problem that's actually useful because of science. And I'm going to give you 7 specific actionable things that you can try in the exact moment that you feel like you're failing in a scene or the scene itself is failing. And that is so you can turn these moments into either a strength in the scene or a really useful learning experience, if not, or maybe both of those things. So by the end of this episode, you will have a toolkit of 7 different techniques to recover from perceived failure in the scene, and you'll learn how to use these experiences to make your improv practice even better. And you'll also be able to understand why failing will make you better at improv. Hi, I'm Jen DeHaan, and this is Your Improv Brain. I've taught and coached improv at a few different schools, and I perform in long-form improvised audio drama podcasts at my production studio, Stereo Forest. And I love to bring nerdy improv monologues to you in this show. So let's get to it. First, I want to say it is pretty inevitable that you will fail in an improv scene. It's going to happen. You're going to have moments where you just didn't understand an initiation, or you forgot the name of your scene partner's cat, or you accidentally block an offer or mess up a plot, or your mind suddenly goes blank. I talked about what to do if your mind goes blank in a recent episode, so I'll link to that in the description and the show notes, and I'll try to put it up somewhere up here for those of you watching the video. But our goal today is to stop seeing all of these kind of moments as shortcomings. They are really valuable data points, and there's ways out of all of them. Fundamentally, reframing how we think about failure is a core improv skill that should really, honestly, have a space in classes everywhere all the time. Accepting failure helps remove the burden of fear, of doubt, of judgment from improv, and it's one of the best ways to get us out of our heads in scenes. Failing is an important part of learning, and maybe the most important part of learning. So let's talk about failure in a bigger sense, outside of just improv. The writer Naval Ravikant has this idea that to master a skill, what you really need is 10,000 failures and error corrections, not just 10,000 hours like Malcolm Gladwell famously suggested. Now, why is this? Because failures are what help you iterate. You learn and you refine from them, and then you repeat what really works for you, and you figure out how to recover from what doesn't in your improv brain, what works for you. And all of this is backed up by research. The psychologist Anders Ericsson coined the term deliberate practice. And this was noted by Gladwell, although Ericsson then challenged the idea that the hours of practice in a domain made someone an expert. He challenged that and said that in certain domains, it could actually happen in way less than 10,000 hours. And that was because Ericsson found that real expertise comes from a systematic approach to practice, and this includes real challenges, immediate feedback, and most importantly, perhaps, is that error correction. Practicing those reps deliberately means doing meaningful reps that include mistakes. And his work suggests that the end point, which is the real expertise, doesn't really depend on things like our personality or our wiring. It's the process of change, not duration. Another thinker, a favorite of mine, Simon Sinek, has an idea that it's better to fail while aiming for a larger, harder goal than it is to lower your goals just to not fail and feel successful. So all of this points to one thing. Failure is the engine of learning because failure helps you change and iterate. So we got to do it to learn. And here's the really cool part for us as improvisers. We can actually have fun at this thing. When we embrace failure as a part of the process, we can play with our mistakes in a scene. And learning to do that in a low stakes environment like a class or a rehearsal or even a show with a real audience might just help us feel better about failure outside of the scene, where the stakes can honestly be a lot higher than in the make-em-ups, right? So we know that we learn and we change from our own errors. We know that we need the reps to have those opportunities to fail because our brain is wired to learn effectively doing the thing and then correcting the thing. So let's talk now about those reps. What happens when we make a failure on stage, in the scene? How can we play with it in the moment so we can learn from it and become more adaptable improvisers? So I'm going to call them scene hacks. Here are 7 hacks that you can use to correct errors or what you perceive as errors. And so hack number 1, play with the failure and make it loud. So you messed up. You called your scene partner by the wrong name, let's say, as an example, which you might not care. We can just roll with it. But say you do. Instead of trying to fix it or pretend that it didn't happen, another option is to lean into it. Commit really hard to it. Address it in character. I'm so sorry, Sammy. I mean, Susan, I always get you and your sister confused. Or a very trusted scene partner might respond to you and say, I'm sorry, what? Susan, you must be thinking of my ex-wife again. Explore it for as long as it makes sense for the scene, and then just move on. The audience might love this moment. They often do. They see the human mistake and they love watching you turn it into a gift, or maybe even sweat a little if you commit to it hard and make it big. This helps you avoid hesitating. It helps you avoid overcomplicating the scene by trying to furiously fix your mistake. But it's really a very important part of this error-based learning concept or deliberate practice. So hack number 2, if you freeze, do something, anything. This is related to my earlier episode on your mind going blank, which you can check out, find out the link in the description or the show notes. But the short version or one part of this episode is if you freeze, just do a physical action of some sort. You might pick up a phone like that, not like that, right? You might start sweeping the floor, or straightening a picture on the wall, or you might just emote something with your body and really feel it, and then make something up about whatever you're doing or feeling in the moment. Like you have to call your mom or something, and then just move on. And this action can sometimes just unstick your brain, and then you can learn from whatever you find when that happens, and just keep practicing that way out of your mind going blank. All right, hack number 3. If you're trying too hard to be funny, try to be boring. So this sounds really wild, but it can work. So if you find yourself like just really straining to be funny, or you're trying to invent or write the scene, that's probably a little bit more common for you. Maybe just like flip it. Try to be really mundane and just normal, generic, or just be you. I'm not saying you're boring or mundane or generic, but just be as you can be. Be your authentic self in that situation. Like, I've been in scenes where I've had no idea what's happening, and I just started reacting as honestly as I can. And it works. The authentic, grounded response can or often will be funnier than trying to do a joke that you try to just force into the scene. You'll eventually be funny, so just be you. Hack number 4. If a scene is failing, you can just breathe life into it. So let's say, for the sake of argument, your scene is dead in the water. It's stagnant. And you and your scene partner are maybe treading, and no one on the back line is ending the scene. But you have a lot of options here. This is like a lot of hacks in one. Make a confession. God, I have to tell you something. I no longer like our Radio Shack Thursdays. Or again, emote something really strong. Be suddenly terrified of that hamster cage in the corner. Did Sean just look at me weird? I don't know. Bring something back from earlier in the scene and raise the stakes on it. Like, you mentioned your gambling problem earlier, right? I bet our Camry on the big game. But don't worry about failing with the offer or what those details are. They can be a lot simpler or hopefully better than those examples. But make a choice. Commit to it. Maybe add some emotion if you can, but care. And just see what happens. And if you're the scene partner receiving whatever this is, your job is to just yes and the heck out of it. And maybe that new idea fails too, but that's okay because you'll learn from it. Hack number 5, you're stuck in your head. So focus on your partner. This is like a lot of people say to do this, right? It's classic. You're lost. You're worried about the scene and you just don't know what to do. Just stop thinking about yourself. Put all of your attention, everything, on your scene partner. Be really curious about them. Watch everything they do. Scrutinize them. Listen to what they say and just respond the hell out of it. It moves your focus from inside your head to outside your head, which is where the improv lives. So you want to be there. All right, hack number 6, find an out. Sometimes the scene just needs to come to an end. If no one else is ending it for you, just find a way out. Make a choice that logically ends the scene or makes a huge signal to your backline to help you out. And if you are on the backline, just edit that scene. Don't be afraid to edit a scene that has run its course. Edit more, edit quicker, and don't worry about failing by ending the scene too early. A good short scene, or even a bad short scene, is better than a long bad scene. All right, the last hack. Hack number 7. If your failure is a constant fear of failure, make mistakes on purpose. So this one might be the most powerful hack of all, or maybe is just my favorite one because I love it. In scientific literature, this is related to something that is called the daring effect. DERRING, if you're listening. If you are afraid of failing, you need to start doing it on purpose in low-stakes environments to just normalize it. In a class or a practice session, that means you just jump. Make a bold, physical or verbal move before you have time to think about it, and then just figure out how to justify it afterwards. And this is a fantastic way to learn. I can't emphasize this enough. This is so useful. Jump before you look. You're not messing up a show, and you're in a safe environment anyway. So just act and then figure it out. See how it goes. Even if your scene partner doesn't have your back for some reason, science has your back on this one. But honestly, jumping before you look can be so freaking fun, and it will absolutely, definitely, for sure, make you a better improviser. All right. So, how do we reframe all of this in our minds? You can think that you failed and you can have fun with it. So, in a scene I did, I thought I completely botched my response to an initiation. So, I just did the scene and rolled with it and I had fun. But thinking I'd failed at the end, I was about to learn more about that scene than I ever thought I would. I learned, first of all, that I could just do that. I could just roll with it. And second, I thought that the scene was awful. That was my perception. But the coach said I should do more scenes like with that kind of weird logic. So I learned to throw away my own judgment that it was probably useless and that I'm not good at judging. And that was a big learning moment for me. And without that immediate direct feedback internally and externally, and doing that bad scene, I wouldn't have learned all of that stuff. It was a huge learning experience for me. So I'm so thankful I failed that scene and got immediate internal and external feedback. So remember that failing is the best way to learn. And what you notice as a failure might not be one at all. And even if it is, it's probably amplified 100 times in your own brain. The audience or your coach likely might not even notice. And even if they did, they probably don't care nearly as much as you do. So let's go back to our big question for today. How can we actually use all of this to make our improv better? But first, if you like this episode, I would love it if you would click that like button on it if you're watching. And if you're listening, I would love it if you would join myself and other improvisers in the Improv Update Discord. And please share this episode with anyone who you think might find it useful. So the answer to using failure, as we've seen today, is to reframe it as data. And the best way to learn and get good. So reframe these moments in your scene. When you think you failed, reframe it to a discovery about your improv brain. If you think you made a mistake, call it weird, call it an unexpected offer. Your I'm not good at improv is a little bit more like I'm getting my reps in. So every time you fail and then you recover using these hacks, or even if you don't, you get stronger, you get smarter, you're more well-rounded, you're more adaptable in improv. Then you can get out of your head and use much more of it. And that makes improv so much more fun, and it makes it more fun for everyone around you too. And that is the whole point. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back next Monday for the next episode. Bye for now. You have been listening to Your Improv Brain, a Stereoforest production. This show is created and is written, edited, and produced by Jen Hahn of stereoforest.com. You can find show information, show notes, transcripts, and contact information at the show's page at stereoforest.com/improvbrain. Thanks for listening.